The Avengers story expands with Avengers World. This is Jonathan Hickman, Nick Spencer, who is kind of coming onto the scene at Marvel at the time, Stefano Caselli, and this was really building off the concept of the Avengers need to get bigger. So this is Avengers World, where they face global threats. It's an expansion of Jonathan Hickman's story. How does it do? Hey everybody, this is Perch. Avengers World was really designed to kind of expand. That the roster of the Avengers had grown so much that they wanted to be able to give some spotlight scenes to members that weren't necessarily going to be part of the core title. Now keep in mind at this point we've got Avengers, which is kind of the core book. We've got New Avengers, which is the Illuminati kind of trying to save the multiverse. We've got Mighty Avengers kicking up, which is Luke Cage's kind of Heroes for Hire. And then we've got Avengers World, we've got Avengers Arena. There's a lot of Avengers titles at this point. There's lots of room for everyone. So right out the gate, before we get into the comic, I want to say kind of a couple things happened with Avengers World. Like I said, it was intended to kind of show other moments of other characters and show global threats and how the Avengers are being stretched thin and tackling them. But it definitely it got sucked into the whole time runs out and everything else, and even had a brief kind of interaction with Axis. Most of the others didn't, where all this stuff it quickly folded into the bigger narrative of what was going on with the Avengers at the time. So it didn't necessarily ever accomplish its goal of giving these kind of little moments that it claimed it would. It definitely kind of got into big action with big characters. A lot of stuff with Cannonball, Hyperion certainly was a big factor here, but it ran for about 21 issues, I believe, and then it folded into Secret Wars and everything else. But basically, the comic opens up, and the whole point of it is that the Avengers have made the statement, the world is ours, falls under our protection, and that is Avengers World. And it's going to have a pretty large audience of a bunch of the different characters here. And Captain America is still serving as the captain of the Avengers kind of initiative. And it's really Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. has combined into one. A lot of awkward moments. Bruce Banner and Steve are having conversations about kind of the press releases that now need to be sent out, the bureaucracy, which Steve isn't necessarily comfortable with, but here it is. We are getting a more sarcastic Bruce Banner. We're seeing Al Ewing kind of do that now in his Immortal Hulk run, but this was a little bit of a Bruce Banner that was going to be aligned a little bit more to the movies. It was all part of Hickman, which a lot of people forget, is that he was doing a big story, he was doing bigger things, but he was definitely feeding stuff into the films, and definitely the films felt connected in a way that current times it does not. The characters are feeling the same, sounding the same, even if they're doing vastly different things. There were definitely some. You could watch the movie, you could come into the comics new, and you could definitely kind of see the similarity there. He was making an effort. So we jump right into a S.H.I.E.L.D. Briefing, and everything is going wrong kind of at once. So first off, there's a disaster. It's a big humanitarian crisis off the East Coast. Hyperion, Thor, and Captain Marvel are checking it out. Meanwhile, Madripoor is burning over in another part of the world. There's rioting and anarchy. Black Widow, Falcon, and Wolverine are there trying to figure out what's going on. And then in Italy, we've got, in a nice throwback to Hickman's S.H.I.E.L.D. series, we've got Starbrand and Nightmask and Hawkeye and Spider-Woman going to check out kind of this underground city of the dead that was a big part of that S.H.I.E.L.D. series. And then finally, AIM Island, which is going to have Smasher, Sunspot, and Cannonball are going to investigate what's going on there, because there's suddenly a bunch of activity. So over in Madripoor, the Avengers are kind of investigating, checking things out, and then suddenly, very much a Hickman concept, the entire island kind of rumbles, and it takes off because Madripoor is apparently on the head of a dragon. So a dragon is actually lifting out of the ocean and is going to take off. Buildings falling off its skull, and this is obviously a big problem. What's funny is this whole Madripoor is on a dragon. kind of got swept away. I mean, they don't really reference that anymore. Secret Wars fixed all that, I guess. But then we shift back to Italy, and very cool concept for especially for people who like the Shield series. We go down there. We're in the City of the Dead, and there's this trouble map location. For fans of Hickman who were watching the Shield series kind of stumble along, have massive delays, this was pretty cool to see it show up here. It meant that some of his storylines were converging, and it gave you the feeling, if you were following Hickman, that he was tying all of his threads from Fantastic Four to Shield to Secret Warriors, everything into one, which was nice. At the time, Marvel was not doing this kind of tight, connected storyline, and so it was good to see them get back here. But meanwhile, off they go to the capital city of AIM, and that's raising up to be a bigger threat. Hickman would do a lot with AIM to turn them out of like the weird beekeeper kind of jokey villain and make them a serious threat, as AIM basically states, we're going to take the world from you. So this whole comic is setting up the storylines that are going to progress over the next 15 issues or so, and it's all about this is, threats are popping up all over the planet, huge threats that are going to tear apart the world. And so it's got a this is basically the mandate for the majority of the series. By the time it gets to Axis and the time runs out, it's settled some of these things. But the whole point of it is that we're having to deal with multiple problems all at once. It introduced Chinese superheroes. It introduced big things everywhere. Most of the time, Captain America and Maria Hill are just kind of watching TVs, and the Shield helicarrier as craziness is going on everywhere. But there is you get a giant Shang-Chi. You get Sebastian Druid is murdered. You get Morgan Le Fay. You get all kinds of just crazy stuff everywhere. So if you are about action, this book was definitely all action all the time. Lots of different plots converging all simultaneously. How do the Avengers, tackle all this? But you also got some really nice moments with Cannonball, with Smasher, Thor. Hulk gets to do some things. We get quite a few pretty good moments, and it's it's nice. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. You get the next Avengers that was introduced in Bendis's run, kind of popping back up again. And what's cool about this is that, in this series, almost more than the other Avengers books, Avengers World did one thing I think very, very well, and that is it really tried to tie in a lot of other plots. And Nick Spencer would eventually take the book completely over from Hickman. Hickman would leave, and I think that's the model that we're seeing right now for Dawn of X, and so those books that Hickman's doing, where Hickman kind of gets the thing onto a good start, and then by I believe issue 7, Nick Spencer had taken the title. But there did feel like there was a good platform, a lot of good respect for what was going on with the Avengers at the time. It petered out, unfortunately, when it hit Axis. The two issues there were kind of just oddball. It was Doctor Doom assembling his own Avengers World, which was really just a brief hiccup. It didn't really necessarily get anywhere. It was just briefly touched on and gone. And then the time runs out. The last 5 issues or so are all just building towards Secret Wars and feel very much like threat of Thanos and other things, and it takes away some of the charm. But all in all, a pretty good series. I mean, short-lived and everything else, but definitely filled out. It was hard to truly love it because you were just being, felt like you were being waterboarded with Avengers books at this point. But it did flesh out some interesting things. It did do a good job capturing all the threat simultaneous stuff, which was pretty cool at the time. So there you go. Did you like this comic? Did you like Avengers World? Like what they did? Like the expansion? Leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, introduce to a friend if you wouldn't mind. Get some more guests in here. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.